How's it going, Gumi Gang? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing awesome. In a weird twist of fate, we actually got a buff, a pretty decent one, to a shotgun that I really love and enjoy in Warzone until it was nerfed, and that's the Reclaimer 18, also known as the Spaz 12. So while I'm going to talk about what changed and why it's so good, I also want to compare it to the Marine SP. Since that's another really good shotgun in this category, I want to compare the two because these are probably two of the best contenders for the best pump action in my opinion. So let's just go ahead and hop right into what changed with the patch notes. There's a little bit to dissect here, so let's go ahead and take a look. So taking at the notes here, you can see in its first damage range, the max damage range, where it just deals the most damage, it got a little bit of a range buff to 1.7 from 1.0. That's really nice, but it's not amazing. Its next range is actually where some of the magic happens, and this actually got a pellet damage buff and a range buff from 2.54 to 4.57. And I just want to point out real quick what you see here with the pellet damage numbers. These are per pellet, just keep that in mind. But there are body multipliers. It's the same as any other gun in the game. There are body multipliers, and for whatever reason, the base multiplier, like the 1.0 damage, only applies to head. So the damage you're seeing here really only applies to headshots, and then the chest and stomach shots and everything else, they're a little bit less because the body multipliers are reduced for those body parts. So just keep that in mind. But in its second range, its first drop off, which is where I said the magic happens, that 55 damage per pellet is really nasty because essentially what happens is now up close, if you're hitting someone in the chest or stomach and you're aiming down sights or full tack stance, you basically deal around 245 damage, which is insanely good. That's very, very good. That's up from 200, so keep that in mind. That's a pretty substantial damage buff there. And then a couple things in the notes here again, we're basically got another range buff to its second drop off, so it goes to 8.9 rather than 4.5, and it also got an aim down sights move speed bonus from 3 meters to 3.2 meters a second. All in all, some good stuff here, some really good buffs that I'm really happy to see with their Reclaimer. Now, an implication from this that you might be wondering is what is the 2-tap range, because this thing used to be known for having its really nice 2-tap range around like the 10 to 11 meter mark in Warzone 3 or Modern Warfare 3's version of Warzone. Unfortunately, the only downside to these new changes is the 2-shot range is only its first drop-off range, so 4.5 meters, that's your 2-tap range. It's really not good. It is possible in the third range or its second drop-off where it's out to 8.9 meters to get a 2-tap, but that's only if you hit 2 headshots consecutively, so not really worth it there. But basically your 2-tap range is only 4.5 meters, kind of womp 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 moment, not super great, but it makes up for in other ways, I promise. And then in that second drop-off, that is a 3-shot kill, so just keep that in mind. It doesn't drop off the face of the earth, thankfully. It's a 3-tap, and then after that in its next range, it's a 4-tap. Now, if you compare that 2-tap range to something like the Marine SP, it's pretty terrible in all honesty, because with the Marine SP, you can literally 2-tap people out to its minimum damage range, like literally 25 meters as long as you hit your pellets, but it's not super consistent, but it has a great 2-shot range, and it really puts the Reclaimer to shame. But that's not everything. That's not the only thing it takes to make a good pump action, as you'll see soon. So now that we talked about the notes and what changed for the Reclaimer, I want to talk about it compared to the Marine SP, because these are probably two of the best pump actions in the game we have thus far, and I want to kind of talk about why I would use one over the other. So with the Marine SP, it's basically the ranged monster of the game thus far. It just deals so much damage at ranges. Like I said, 25 meters, 20 meters, 15. If you can hit 2 solid chest shots, you can 2-tap someone, you can 2-pump them, and it's really satisfying. Not only that, but even up close, it deals the most damage out of any of the other pumps because its chest multiplier is a little bit higher than the others. Plus you have that nice, sweet tactical laser, which makes your spread with the modified choke super tight and makes hitting those longer range shots really effective. But I gotta be honest, this is probably where all of my sweet talk for the Marine SP stops, because the Reclaimer 18 has so much more going for it other than the range and the damage. There is so much going for the Reclaimer that it honestly might be my new favorite pump action to run in Warzone. Definitely Resurgence, maybe not as much on the bigger map, but honestly I could see an argument for it either way. For starters, the rate of fire on the Marine SP is really bad compared to the Reclaimer. With the rapid fire attachment, it takes it up to 71 rounds per minute, so your 2-shot time to kill is about 845, and for every shot you need, it's another 845 milliseconds on top of that. But the Reclaimer 18 is at 90 rounds per minute, which means its 2-shot time to kill is about 666, which is funny because it's 666, ha ha ha. But honestly, that difference in rate of fire is really extremely noticeable, and there's times with the Marine where you just need that little bit of extra time to get that next shot off, and with the Reclaimer, generally you do have that time in most engagements, at least compared to the Marine SP. A lot of SMGs are still going to shred you, but I'm just saying it's way more forgiving than the Marine SP. Honestly, the list for the Reclaimer, pros versus cons versus the Marine SP, just goes on and on compared to the Marine SP. Like for example, the handling, the sprint to fire speed, which is my biggest complaint with the Marine SP. With the build I always use, it's around 177 milliseconds for its sprint to fire speed. That's extremely painfully slow. For an aggressive shotgun player, that sucks ass. I'm not gonna lie, it's really rough to use sometimes. You have to be careful with it. But with the Reclaimer 18, with pretty much any build you rock with it, it's going to be sub 90 milliseconds. With the build I've been using for range, it's 87. With another build, it's like 67. It basically feels instantaneous compared to the Marine SP, and that is huge for me. Also with the Reclaimer 18, you don't need a laser attachment to use tactical stance on it. So with the Marine SP you do, with this one you don't. So it's another plus for that. The handling and mobility on the Reclaimer 18 is just like miles ahead of the Marine SP. Specifically things like the tac stance, aim down sights, movement speed, the sprint to fire, the aim down sights, everything on this thing feels so damn snappy and smooth compared to the Marine SP. Also, I may be biased, but it's a mono warfare gun, so it just kind of feels better. It's more punchy. The Spaz 12 or the Reclaimer just has a really nice punchiness to it, and I love it. Plus, there's a ton of attachments to rock on it, making it way more interesting than just the boring droll like Black Ops 6 attachments we have that just do one thing and that's pretty much all you're ever going to run. Not really impressed by that. I way much prefer the way that they handle it in Modern Warfare 3's Warzone. So yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm glazing up this Reclaimer a lot, and there's for good reason too. In my opinion, I'm just going to say it right here, I do think that this is probably the better pump action in the game overall, even though it lacks the range of the Marine SP. On Resurgence specifically, the Reclaimer is a monster shotgun. It's a great shotgun. Even though it lacks a 2-shot range, it still does a ton of damage and makes up for it by having great mobility and handling to really close that gap. On a bigger map with maybe longer sightlines, I could see making an argument for the Marine SP, and it does have incredible damage. And I'm not saying by any means that it's a terrible shotgun. I'm just saying compared to the two, I honestly think I would rather have the Reclaimer in my hands because it just is a smooth experience compared to the clunky awkwardness of the Marine SP despite its range. Now I do want to show you guys the class I've been using for the Reclaimer 18. This is the max range build you can get with it. We're using the Flash Twist 90 and the Discourager Heavy Barrel. Then we have some other attachments for that mobility and sprint to fire speed. Really nice tac stance spread, super great. If you want some extra mobility, just swap out those two range attachments, use the Iron Brand barrel instead, and swap out the Flash Twist for the Jack Slash. Super fun. I definitely encourage you guys to try it out. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I'm definitely crowning the Reclaimer 18 my favorite pump action in the game now. It just feels so much better overall, but I can see a case being made for it being the better of the two shotguns for something like Verdansk. So now I want to know down below in the comments, what do you guys think of these two shotguns? Do you prefer the Reclaimer or do you prefer the Marine SP? And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.